Hi everyone, it's Dave here from Fine Line Joinery. I'm getting ready to start this home office project for a client. The base cabinet to the left of the desk area is going to have pullouts for a printer and printing supplies. With a normal pair of doors there, I feel like the right-hand door would be in the way for full access to the printer and supplies for someone sitting at the desk. So I think a pair of bifold doors would be the better option. With this cabinet being right next to the wall though, and not wanting to widen this 1.5-inch style, I know I have a clearance issue. So I'm going to do a full hardware mock-up to work it all out. The hardware I like for bifold cabinet doors is the Salice Concertina. It should work with whatever brand of hinges you like, although Salice is what I use. The Concertina is relatively simple to install, inexpensive, and functions really smoothly. One thing to keep in mind though is that it's not designed to support any of the weight of the doors, only guide them. As I mentioned before, the problem I'm facing is the clearance between the open door and the adjacent wall. For the left door pull to not hit the wall, that door can't open past 90 degrees. You can see on this page from Salice's brochure that the hinged door opens well past 90. If I were to install some sort of stop at 90 degrees, I'm sure that would keep the folding door from opening far enough for the pullouts to work, unless I made them way narrower, which I definitely don't want to do. I did consider a few other hardware options, but as far as I can tell, I'd have the same problem with any of them. I figured that by doing a hardware mock-up, I could come up with some way to make this work. So you're probably looking at this about now wondering, what kind of wonky box is he making? Yeah, I know it looks kind of odd, but once I get the last couple of pieces on, it will accurately represent the real cabinet as far as the relationships between the carcass reveals, the face frame, and the doors. I'm building at the actual width of the cabinet, but only about a foot tall. Okay, my fake cabinet is finished, and I'm ready to install the hardware and doors. I'll start with the Concertina track, which goes in the top of the cabinet. In my case, it will be partially concealed by the frame's top rail. I don't feel quite ready to cut the track to final length yet, so I'm going to drill a hole in one side and let it stick out long for now. These are all the parts available in the Concertina system. You don't need all of them, so I'll show you what I'm using. This is the block for wood doors that slides in the track and guides the traveling door. You need one per pair of doors. This hinge attaches the sliding block to the traveling door. Again, one per pair. This hinge attaches the two doors together. I didn't see a recommended spacing for these hinges, but I figured the same as whatever the hinged door needs, so I've got two. This finger protection strip I've never used because it requires a larger gap between the doors than I want. I've also never used this alignment pin because, well, I guess I've just never needed it. For some reason, not shown on this list is the track, but it's here on another page. I have one length of that. Okay, back to the installation. This is only temporary, so I'll install the track with some double stick tape. I've already marked its location according to the instructions. Now I'll lay out my door hinge locations, install the hinge mounting plates using a shop-made drilling jig, then over to my hinge press to bore and install the hinges. Next, I need to lay out the location of the slider block hinge on the traveling door. Vertically, the hinge is centered 37 millimeters from the inside top of the cabinet. So I need to adjust that for my 3/32 inch door reveal plus the 1/2 inch that my top rail hangs below the inside of the cabinet. Nothing more fun than complicating simple arithmetic by mixing metric and imperial units, right? Okay, horizontally, the edge of the hinge cup should go between 3 to 7 millimeters from the door edge. So I'll go with 5. Using a couple of spacers to maintain the gap I want between the doors, I'll attach them together using the central hinges. I'm initially installing these hinges per the instructions, but I think moving the hinge point is going to be the key to solving my clearance issues. I'm finally ready to mount and test the doors. I'll start by clipping on the door hinges. Okay, maybe that's not the best position for doing that. Now I'll install the sliding block into the track, then attach it to the sliding block hinge, which is kind of a pill because, well, it's actually the wrong way to do it. I forgot that the block had the ability to rotate on this axis, which allows it to attach and detach from the track without unscrewing it from its hinge. It's way easier to attach the block to the hinge first, then rotate and lock it into the track. I need to stop here to be sure the doors end up flat across the front when closed. The stop isn't part of the Concertina system, but I like these fast cap adjustable stops. They install with a single eccentric screw and are fine adjusted by rotating them. Now that I have my doors installed according to the instructions, I can see that they open to pretty much the same angle as shown in the picture. So I think that by moving this pivot point over towards the center of the doors, I can get the traveling door to open the same amount without the hinged door opening quite as wide, I think. So that center hinge pivot point is only about an 1/8 inch from the center of my door gap. I feel like a small adjustment is going to have a big effect on the geometry, so I think I'm only going to move it about a 1/16 of an inch, so half the distance to the door gap center line. All right, well, that didn't seem to have much effect. I'll try moving the pivot point another 1/16 to line up right on the door gap. Okay, so I was feeling pretty optimistic about this, right up until about here. Yeah, maybe a little better, but that hinged door is still opening well past 90. And worse yet, now the traveling door is binding. All right, Dave, time for a chill moment. So the problem is that the slider now wants to bind when pushed from out here, which is where the door pull will be. It travels nice and smooth though when I pull from here. Here stuck, here it's fine. Once the slider has an inch or two head start though, it seems to go all right. That doesn't solve anything yet, but I think I'm gaining an understanding of how this geometry works. So I moved the center hinges back to the last position that let the doors still function properly, which was in between the original and the door gap center line. Then I wanted to try to add some sort of a stop to keep the slider from opening any farther than it needed to. That turned out to be pretty simple. I just stuck a wood screw here at the end of the track, which is great because it's also adjustable. I need the edge of this door to open to within 2.5 inches of the inside of the cabinet. That's as wide as I can make this standard to support my adjustable pullouts and still have them be wide enough for my client's printer. I almost always use this X-bracket system from Century Components to make pullouts adjustable now, so my clients aren't locked into what gets stored where. It's not cheap, but I think it's a pretty great system. So anyway, I guess I'm pretty much back to square one now. Or, I don't know, maybe square two. Even with that little screw stop added, the hinge door still opens well past 90 degrees. I'm feeling kind of stumped, so it seems like a good time to call it a day. Some say the reason we dream is to solve our problems. As I began my REM sleep cycle last night, all I could see was a pair of bifold doors that wouldn't close. But then that image transformed into the one where they worked smoothly once given a little head start. Why is that, I wondered, and by morning, I had it all worked out. Here we are with a couple of stuck doors. Once the traveling door gets out to around here, though, it works great. What's changing to allow that to happen is the angle between the concertina track and the traveling door. Once it opens up a little, the door travels free. So what if I could open the starting angle of the track here a bit to let the movement get started, then bring it back to its correct position by the time it's completely closed? Theory sounds good. Let's see if I can make it happen. If you remember, when I first installed this track, I used double stick tape. Yeah, that didn't last very long. Anyway, as it turns out, I'm really glad this concertina system uses a plastic track. Instead of having to cut the track and hoping the sliding block can navigate sharp corners, I think I can bend this track enough to achieve the geometry required for my needs. All right, let's see what we've got. 90 degrees, looks good. Nice and smooth. It works. 2.5 inches, dead on. Well, there's no denying I did have my doubts for a while, but I finally got it. I guess I'm ready to start building the actual project. I am planning to do a video for the entire office project, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and be notified when that comes out. As always, thanks for watching. Cheers!